It's time for the visit with the person of high strangeness. You know, I haven't really been in the actual studio since October, since we did the predictions for 2017. And the reason for that is there were so many old shows that apply to what's going on in the world right now that we've decided to re-air some of the old shows and also put about another 200 on YouTube. Normally I take you places and it's really lively, but what I was thinking, due to the circumstances at the moment that we have with everything that's going on in our world, people are glued to the television set, especially the cable stations, and we sit there and we listen and we listen and we listen to opinions and outlooks to remind you this show is politically and religiously neutral, but because we are so glued to the television screen at the moment, I actually felt comfortable of doing a show today where you would actually have to sit and listen to us rather than us taking you a lot of places. And I think I can get away with that this time. And so the name of today's show is Floating into Nothingness, and eventually you'll realize what we're saying by that. So since we started the shows again, maybe not the new ones, not every week, but every month or so, and let's give it a trial run and see how it works. How's that? I want to say something about my shoes, because my shoes do not match my clothes. So if for some reason anybody takes a picture of my shoes, that was not in the plan. And the noise you hear is my telephone. It decided to wake me up. So I am totally awake, and I'm getting ready to introduce my very unique guest to you. His name is Rick Baker. How are you, Rick?
I'm great, thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy you're here, too. You know, we'll just visit. How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What I want to tell you about Rick is he's also one of my sponsors for about a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Almost 2 years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you've been helping out with things, and I appreciate that. Do you remember how we met?
I remember I lived nearby, and I think I was out for a walk one day, and then we just went up and started talking to each other. And that was probably 15 years ago, roughly.
That was in July 2001. I had to relocate to where you was at the time,
Right.
after the earthquake.
Yeah, that's right. I remember. Yeah.
And you was on your way out, you was moving.
Yeah.
And one of the things you mentioned that you had watched the evolution of the mobile to come in.
Yes.
Because the location it was, I think you called it a triangle.
Yes. Yeah. I was ready to move out in '03, I think, about 2 years after we met, is when I moved out. Yeah.
Oh, then maybe I didn't see you right away.
Right. No,
Yeah.
it was around '01, I think.
Well, I was sad to see you go at that time, because it's always good when you have a like-minded person close, you know, like in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of sad that the day I met you, you know, I realized that you was kind of on the way out. And so
We've stayed in touch, though.
we did, and you have fixed my roof how many times?
Oh, several times. And brought firewood for you. And
Yeah.
you've done a lot of good things for me, too, as well.
Yeah, so I bought this, if you remember, I bought a really old mobile home. And, oh, the interesting thing, you know, let me tell you, when I bought it, it was worth $15,000. That's all. Then it dropped to $6,500, and I just got my tax papers, and it's now worth $1,400.
Yeah, that's probably about right. I bought mine for $18,000, right around the corner from you, and sold it for $6,000. 13 years later. Yeah, they generally don't hold their value.
They don't hold their value, which is sort of good for the tax purposes, but, you know, But anyway, so you moved away, and then, and you clean my chimney, and, it has to be certified by the county every year. And so we sort of stayed in touch over the years. And then there came a time when you got all excited about a new adventure you had been on. You want to take it from there?
Yeah. Early in January, a customer of mine told me about floating. We got in a conversation, and I was kind of in a recovery from a bad relationship, and immediately it made an impression on me. He didn't have to describe it much, it hit. And I went down to Olympia Float 4 times in January, once a week, and I floated for an hour and a half.
Let me interrupt you for a minute. There is a place in Olympia people can go to?
Yep. Oli Float is on 4th Avenue East. Yeah, as you go up the hill. It's easy to see. They have a sign out front. You can't miss it. Yeah, so that's where I started. I enjoyed it so much. I noticed early on, after about 3 floats, that all my nervous habits were going away. I used to chew my nails while I watched TV. That subsided. I used to pace. I started generally feeling better and more relaxed. So right around about the 24th of January, I bought my own float tank. I decided, because I wanted to have one. I wanted to float when I wanted, how I wanted, as often as I wanted. I didn't want to go downtown, and I had room for it. And it showed up, ironically, right before my birthday. My birthday present to me.
To you, yeah.
And I've floated probably about 75 times since the 1st of January.
Wow, that's quite a bit. Now, in the meantime, I had a friend visiting, and we're the same age. And in case you don't remember, but I'm just about 70 now. Well, anyway, we were sitting there talking about bucket lists. And on his bucket list was to float. He said, I just want to float into nothingness. And I said, you know what? Let me make a phone call. So I called you, and you were nice to invite him to float. And I want to say here, I can't float because of the chemicals in the tanks. And so I have to take everybody's word for what it feels like. So you have to explain what it feels like. But what my friend said was, when he goes in the sweat lodges, it gives him what do you call it? It gives him things to work on, like from the past and forgiveness and things like that. He said that's what a sweat lodge does to him. But when he got into that tank, he said immediately it gave me solutions. So how long was he in there? I don't remember.
Probably about an hour.
About an hour.
It's so relaxing that you're able to work on things that you don't normally work on. Like, for example, and this is what I've read in more than one of the books I've been reading since I started floating, is that normally your mind is spending about 90% of its energy fighting gravity. So when you get into zero gravity and you're floating, your brain says, okay, now I can start working on that because you're so relaxed.
So you're going to get a lot more smarter, is that what you're saying?
Well, I hope so. That's my goal.
Your goal, yeah.
More relaxed and smarter.
Relaxed and smarter, yeah.
It really is a unique experience because I had never done anything like it. I've always had quite a bit of anxiety. I'm okay with managing my stress, but I always wanted to be better. And it's such a relaxing experience that it carries over. And a lot of people say that it facilitates their normal meditation. It makes it easier because it puts them in a state of relaxation. So it's much easier to do a sitting meditation. They get more out of their sitting meditation. I've read 4 books on floating since early January because I wanted to know a little bit more about what I was doing. And a lot of these people have started their own float tank companies.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk to my director here for a minute. I'd like to have that insert, please, of that float tank, if you don't mind. And
Okie dokie, Smokey.
cool, he heard me. So this way you can get a visual what that looks like. And maybe you want to tell them how you installed it and
Yeah.
or how whatever you
Right.
want to.
And I designed it because it looks like a shuttlecraft, so you'll be able to see the designing I did to it.
Hello, my name is Rick Baker. This is my float tank,
That's a
otherwise
good
known
German
as
picture.
a
It has
sensory
its
deprivation
independent plumbing
unit
in the back, which
for
you'll see in a minute. I'm,
restricted environmental
moving my
stimuli
camera around
therapy,
quite a
REST.
bit.
I purchased it in the end of January.
There,
I
it's
floated
got its own
probably
independent
about
plumbing
90
system,
times. It's a
and
very
so it's
deep
really easy to plumb.
meditation.
It's got
The
flex
plumbing comes
pipe.
with the
You
unit,
just bend the flex pipe and you just hook
the
them into
pipes
the
are easy
ports.
to put on. I did all that myself.
And what it will do is
So
you can set it to
basically
time,
what you do is,
so it'll rotate the water and it'll clean the water and run it through a filter system.
and there's a pad.
So I set the timer for 6 p.m. as well as 6 a.m. for 15 minutes. That way it gets rid of any possible body odors or hair that might be left in the tank.
It looked like there was a mat, like a mat. Is that what holds you up eventually?
No, that's the pad that sits in there just to kind of hold the heat in. It has a heating pad like a water bed underneath it. There's a liner in there, and the pad just holds the heat in. So you remove the pad so you can lay on top of the water.
Galileo.
Yeah, it's about 4 feet wide and 9 feet long, so it's big enough for anybody.
Bigger than a coffin.
Yep. It'll sit in a very small room. The room is only about 12 by 14 feet that I put it in.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the type of person, I like small spaces.
Yeah, I do
And
too.
I could actually sleep in a coffin. So your float tank, if I could go in it,
Yeah.
probably feel right at home, you know.
You can fall asleep in it as well. You can't roll over. People have tried. People actually do the dolphin move to get centered. So it's very difficult to turn over. You just float on your back and basically just let your mind go.
So since you're by yourself most of the time when you're in it, there's a latch on the inside so you can escape
Yes.
your escape
Yes.
pod? Is that what you can do?
Some people say they might get a little bit claustrophobic, but when they get in there, they find out it's actually so relaxing, and knowing that the door just opens and you can get out whenever you want. I had one friend float for 25 minutes. Another friend came over and floated for over an hour. I floated for 2 hours and 20 minutes one time. That's my longest. Because I just didn't want to get out. It was that comfortable, that relaxing.
This has nothing to do with a float tank, but I just had a memory here. When I was in Europe, I was working for a big company, and the boss was very, well, he was egotistical. What's that other word?
Let's just say a lot of bosses are that way.
He was ugly, and everybody was kind of afraid of him because he was kind of like somebody else we watch on TV every day.
Yeah.
And he really made me angry one time. And a solarium is a place, is a suntan bed. Suntan beds, you know, and they have those lids on it.
Yeah.
And he had made me very angry that day. And I don't know what made me do it. But I went by and I banged on it. And then I unplugged it. And he was sort of stuck in there till his wife came and rescued him.
Oh.
And she was very proud of me because she was afraid to say anything to him. So as a result of that, he was so impressed with my boldness, he bought me a designer purse.
Sometimes you just have to get into people a little bit.
Yeah. So this
Get a
actually has a
response.
double meaning, you know, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so if we just sort of
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
speak up.
Another thing that I've noticed that the floating has helped me with, it is my communication has improved. I had problems putting up boundaries with people, and I've been able to dig in deep enough to know myself quite a bit better, what I want, what I don't want. I'm more relaxed. A lot of my anxiety's gone away. My stress level has gone down. It gets better every time. You can't judge it by the first or second time, because after 75 floats, I would have to say that my social life has changed. It really has. I'm a lot better with people, I should say. There are a lot of things that are good about floating. It's like a deep meditation. And I've tried the sitting meditation. I've gone to meditation retreats. Floating is so much deeper, so much more relaxing, and in my opinion, much more beneficial. Meditation is good. I've always loved meditation, but floating takes it to a new level. There are no interferences. You can play music if you want to. You don't have to. And that's why it's called sensory deprivation, because there's no light. There could be no music, nothing. So it's you and your heartbeat and your breathing.
And nothing. You know, in the olden days, I don't know if they still do that or not, there was a time, I think Edgar Cayce talked about that. If you all remember Kana Shibushan, and she has experienced that occasionally, they used to take the psychics and put them in a dark room with everything, where everything was gone except their connection to this other place. You see what I mean? So does that act the same way, you think?
Well, and what I've read in some of these books, there have been a lot of studies and practices with putting people in dark rooms, somebody just leaving the area for weeks, just them in the cabin with the lights out. That's it. And what they've said is that in the long run, what they do is they start to hallucinate a little bit and tap in a little bit more to who they are, and that's all real. Their imagination really kicks in. They say that they learn more about themselves.
Now, define the word hallucination, please.
In my opinion, hallucinating is tapping in. It's your imagination. That's what I think. I think it was, some people see hallucinating as something bad and scary.
Right, that's why I asked you
Yes.
that. Yeah.
To me, it is actually tapping in. Everything, in my opinion, is real. It's you, it's what you're doing, and the same as dreaming, right? Dreams are real. That's you. Hallucinating is simply maybe a different way of tapping in a little bit deeper to who you are. There's nothing to be afraid of, in my opinion, when you're talking about your imagination. It's all real. And when you get into the float tank, you're so relaxed that it doesn't seem to matter what you're thinking about. Now, a lot of your fears go away as well, because there really is nothing to be afraid of. Nothing can get you. One gentleman stated it's almost as comfortable and reminds him of going back into his mother's womb.
Yeah,
when
you
were
mentioned
safe.
that. Yeah.
Where you're safe, you're
Safe.
comfortable, and there's nothing to be concerned about. You haven't come out into this big crazy world yet where you have to deal with all the stimuli.
So financially, how far does that set you back, and is it justifiable to you?
That's a good question, yes. And to me, it was justifiable because I didn't care how much it cost. I just knew this is what I wanted to do. And then I started researching. I watched a lot of videos online. I did a lot of reading. I looked up prices. I bought an Oasis tank for about $11,000. And then the Epsom salt is about $1,000. And then it's got various parts that go with it. So it was, I think, everything, it was about $13,000. And it was one of the best investments I've ever made. I practically tore the wall down to get it in. There was an expense there. It wouldn't fit through the doorway going around the corner. And we tried to push it through the window, and the window wasn't big enough. So we got the saw out and cut the window bigger. I had my brother-in-law with 3 friends come over, lift it up, get it into the room, put a whole new frame in later. I had guys that were willing to do that. So a new window, that's how important it was to me to get it into my house.
So I'm assuming you're very popular now that you have a float tank?
I'm a little more
A
popular.
little more popular.
Some people think maybe I talk about it too much, but then when they get it and when they start doing their own research, they call me back because there's so much to read. And having a company locally, I've gone in there and thanked them for allowing me to float to start with. And that was the first book I read.
Well, the reason I picked that up, I might have accidentally run into floating because I liked the book cover. And if I'd have saw that book cover, I would have probably said, oh, let me see what this is. Because like sometimes when it's trying to tell you something, it addresses you in ways that you understand, okay? And so if you don't want to, when I put out the records and design the book covers, what I used to do is I make them so that they address your taste buds. And okay, I'm done. Address your taste buds, because if you didn't want to hear it, you wanted to eat it. And once you picked it up, you bought it, see? So psychologically like that.
And the colors. He talks about the choice
Right.
of the book cover within the book.
Yeah.
And I thought it was real interesting what he had to say, because this apparently he picked up from somewhere else.
Now, I would have run into floating because of this book cover. Now, the others here, probably not.
Right. They're not nearly as colorful.
But the name of this is by a man named Michael Hutchinson, The Book of Floating. That's easy, right?
Yeah. It's quite informative. He goes into quite a bit of detail about how he came across floating, and it's an easy read. It really is. Some of them are a little bit more difficult to read. The second book I read is this one. Even easier to read. It's short, it's concise.
Hold it this way.
Yeah,
The lady is upside down, by the way, so.
right.
Yeah.
She's floating.
You hold it still, hand, so the camera can get it.
This book is fun to read because it's a little bit quicker and he's a little bit more concise, and he basically tells his stories about floating and a little bit about himself as well. A lot of these people have had their difficulties, just like everybody else in life, and so he talks a lot about how floating took away his anxiety and just allowed him to feel a lot better about everything he was doing. So, yeah, this was a quick, enjoyable read.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll put that back over here, I think. And, but you know, I'm really glad that you found your niche with this, because over the years, sometimes we talk and we was always trying to find some alternative methods to relax and find some answers, because a lot of people have relationship issues.
Yeah.
We always seem to do the same thing over and over and over.
Yes.
So how did the
Right.
floating help you with
Yeah.
that?
First of all, my intention was to get better. Just get better. And I've had my relationship issues just like everybody else. And
A little louder.
I think that at the age of 56, with good health, I just wanted to spend more time with people. Because I felt quite distant. And I wanted to slow down, have deeper conversations, have deeper relationships, and the floating has really helped me with that. And with what a lot of information that I'm reading in these books is that that's happening to a lot of people who are floating. It's bringing them closer. This book was the third book I read.
Before we get to the book, I want to tell you something. I came to the studio yesterday, and I was trying to get a title for the show, because the way it is now, if anything is copyright or anything, YouTube flags it, we can put it on there, right? So there were several male people in this building, And I stopped them and I said, excuse me, when I said to you, you want to float my boat, what does that mean? And we decided not to use that. See what I mean? So in your case, you could say just at a show, you want to float my boat and see where you can take that, you know.
Yeah.
I just had to put that in here. Back to your book now.
This book was written by John C. Lilly, who started experimenting with floating back in the mid-1950s. And what he would do is he would make a big tank, and you would actually submerge yourself straight up in the tank and wear a mask. And he was asking people how that felt.
The 50s?
Yes, the 1950s.
Wow.
I was really surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And the tank evolved into either a pod or a square. They have float pods as well, to where now you actually lay down. And he started experimenting in the 1970s with laying people down in a tank and then asking them what it was doing for them. And they would say, well, some people would say, my imagination just went wild. And other people would say, well, it was relaxing. But just about everybody said it was good, it was changing me, and they returned.
Since I don't know anything about the float thing other than what you told me, and I have not read the books yet, unfortunately, I've been really busy. But what happens is if you have a person that has problems with their limbs or and can't move their limbs, is that helpful?
Yes.
The weightlessness?
Yes. I went down to Olympia Float about a month ago, and I went in and I talked to the owner and thanked him for being there. I asked, what is the most amazing story you have from somebody who's floating? He said a man who's a paraplegic came in, floated about 20 times, and he got all of his feeling back up.
Really?
Yes, above his waist.
Wow.
Yes. And I thought that was pretty amazing. It's the man that I bought the float tank from has been floating for years, and he owns a company down in San Diego, and he sells the tanks. He said,
You hear that noise?
yeah,
We're in Olympia. Today's the air show. And I bet you that's one of those planes that's flying over here. I live at the end of the runway, which is a short runway. And they have some military planes there that sound like the planes that fly across the English Channel. And it's scary. And I thought I would be happy here, so I couldn't hear it, because it frightened me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there were cars all the way from 99 all the way to Tombade Boulevard parked. One car after another. That's how many people is at the air show.
Really? Wow.
This is when I came, so there might be more now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been so busy I forgot all about it.
Yeah, but that's noise you're hearing at the moment.
Oh,
okay,
okay.
so a paraplegic.
Yes. And so I got on the phone with the gentleman that I had bought the tank from. We got into some really good conversations. That's why I purchased from him. And he said, I said, how far can this take you, this floating? He said, when you think that you're done, there's always another threshold. He said, you will get out of it what you believe you can get out of it. Allow it to change what you believe. The thing to do is to let go. And he said he has crossed many thresholds. He's gone to places he didn't think that he was going to go, because he's floated for hours. I believe he said one time that he actually floated for 4 hours.
Wow.
In
Maybe
one,
didn't want
one
to come
time.
back, huh?
Yeah.
Because of the chemicals that allows that floating. And you said your Epsom salt cost you close to $1,000.
Yeah.
How many times can you use that? I mean, how far does it go?
Yeah, there's a whole list of instructions and recommendations for cleaning. As far as a residential, you know, if I use it and only 1 or 2 people a month, they said that you should only have to empty the tank out once every 2 years.
Oh, well,
You recycle it regularly.
Okay.
Yeah, but
that's what I was
commercially they
wondering.
recommend after about 1 year. So you can go a long time with 1 load of Epsom salt. Yeah, and the water is about 11 inches deep, so you're up quite a ways from the bottom with the water and the Epsom salt.
My cardiologist said to me that heart patients should not do anything with Epsom salt, so that's one of the reasons I can't go into your tank, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. But it's pretty well documented, is the wrong word, but it gives you restrictions and explains everything to you.
Oh, yeah, yes. People who shouldn't float, epileptics, right? That is about it. And I believe it was stated that people with serious heart problems,
Right.
and it was also stated that they don't know yet if floating will actually help somebody recover from a personality disorder. I have yet to find somebody who says that yes, that will help you recover. That's usually something more.
Ah, well, you see, I know several people that have personality disorders. We could actually test that. You know?
I would like to, because I don't believe in any of the restrictions, honestly. I think that if you float often enough and you continue to do it and you continue to work on yourself, anybody can change what they believe. In my opinion, a personality disorder is just simply a matter of fact that you haven't changed what you believe yet.
No, that's
That's
not
it.
true.
Oh, it isn't? Okay.
Don't argue with him.
I need to know.
I have a personality disorder, so I know this is not how it works. What it does, it compartmentalizes your brain. So it's not anything that you can change or work around. You just have to learn how to maneuver it so you can be an operational unit per se. See what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Another thing that was discussed in this book, which is a very difficult read. He's a scientist and he's a medical doctor, and he goes to the chalkboard a lot in this book. He states that he's studied the brain enough to where people have different sizes of regions in the brain, which has a lot to do with the way they think and how they react, as well as conditioning as you grow up. So he does go into that a little bit, as well as
Now, Ancient Aliens yesterday,
my favorite show.
they did a show on frequencies and how it affects the brain.
Yep.
So I've actually tried to get a hold of somebody last night to see if that can compartmentalize your brain, that you can use that as a, I wouldn't say weapon, but a manipulating type instrument, where you could actually, in that case, maybe decompartmentalize a human brain with a personality disorder. So I just did that.
With vibrations, right?
Frequencies.
Frequencies, yes.
With frequencies.
Right. I saw that episode, and they were saying that the entire universe has a frequency.
A frequency, that's right.
I think that we're getting there. Really, I do. If we get enough people working on this, I believe that everybody can heal however they want to heal. And I think that we're crossing thresholds all the time. Conversations are changing. Mine are, anyway. I'm talking about different topics with people than I used to.
You know, I think they should teach that stuff in school, because that would give people, the young people, a head start, you know. And now with the new season, there's some people on there I don't know about, I haven't met. But in the older episodes, I would think everyone on that show has been on this show, on the Person with High Strangeness, including Edgar Mitchell and different people. And in a way, it is so simple, you know, because sometimes, see, I don't give titles on my show, because we see somebody and then we have a title and we say, oh, I'm not interested in that. I don't want that. So if you don't tell a person who these people are, they listen to the conversation and it opens doors for them, and then they can give the title at the end. But I think they should teach the kids that.
Yes. Where I went to high school, it was a small high school. There was no psychology. They didn't show you how to balance a checkbook. There were a lot of there were good classes. They taught what they could, what they had the resources for, and the teachers. But and I've had conversations with my friends who say, well, why didn't we in high school learn things that are practical now,
Right.
that we're dealing with right now? There are people that don't know how to budget or balance a checkbook, or they don't know that much about psychology. They had to go to college to get it, which is what I did.
My young viewer is going to say, what's a checkbook?
They don't use paper anymore.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law the other day, we were doing business, and he said, why are you still using paper?
Yeah.
He does the computer programming for a hot water heater company. Everything is emailed.
Yep.
The bid is emailed, the invoice is emailed, the down payment is emailed, and the payment is taken electronically. And I thought, well, okay,
So
you need to come to my office and change me.
ask your mom what a checkbook is. What's next for you?
What's next? That's a good question. That's a pretty broad question. I've had people tell me that the floating is changing me. They've noticed. Family and friends said, you seem calmer. You're doing different things in your life. You're talking to more people. I'm going to keep doing it because I believe that it just continues to get better. Business is better. It's really kind of hard to describe until you really sit back and look at what you have.
Yeah.
The important thing for me is to not take anything for granted. Get up every morning, sit in my house, and realize what I have. That's important as well, I think, when you're floating, is to continue to look at what you have, not what you don't have. Look at what you have. Like a friend of mine said the other day, he said, talk about what you want, not what you don't want.
But you don't want.
Yes. And that was interesting. And that's what he does. He talks about what he wants.
Yeah, now see, I have to do it in reverse. I have to talk about what I don't want because I'm just backwards. Okay.
Well, experience also. You know what works.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. You are in charge of the world. What are you going to do?
I think encourage peaceful conversation. No more of this infighting back and forth. In my opinion, the system that we're working under right now, people working 40 hours a week just to make enough money to get by, doesn't work very well. I have a niece, very wise lady, who said, I don't want to give my life away 40 hours a week to somebody else. And I said, well, what do you want to do? She said, I want to play when I want and work when I want. And that's what I want everybody to do. So I don't necessarily agree with the economy that we have the way it is right now. But in my opinion, communication is key.
Yeah, but you are in charge of the world,
we are.
so you can
Yeah.
change it.
Yes. That's not an easy question to answer in just a few seconds.
To remind you,
We'll have to have another show to be able to do that.
to remind you, somebody asked me that one time because they said, well, you always put people on the spot, so let me ask you, you're in charge of the world, what are you going to do? And I said, that's easy. I'm going to give everybody a backache for 5 minutes. And he thought it was horrible. But no, because people can't identify with people they have no compassion for anything that's connected to a backache, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I would still give you a backache.
On that episode, another episode of Ancient Aliens, they were stating that we are the only beings on this planet that suffer back pain. There's no animal that suffers back pain.
I must have missed that one. Yeah. Really?
Yep. We have back pain. No other animal suffers back pain.
I learned some. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I must have missed that episode.
Which led to him thinking maybe we didn't start here.
Oh, yeah.
And it feels quite uncomfortable here that we were seeded here.
Right. So back to your float tank. You know, something that we came here in pods. So our ancestors
right.
did. When you in that tank, in that nothingness, would that ring true to you?
Yes, it's interesting where your mind goes when it's allowed to. You go back, right? You feel comfortable. This is warm. This is nice. I felt this before, so you tend to go back, and you feel like that you're in your machine, going where you want. And
So you feel in
essentially,
charge. You
yes,
still feel in charge?
yes,
Oh, okay.
you're in control. Number one, all that's going out there, the loud traffic, the noise, the birds, the dogs barking, all that goes away. That's what makes you feel like you're in control. All you hear when you're in there, if you have a quiet room, all you hear is your heartbeat and your breathing. It's very empowering.
So the pod itself has like a soundproof. What is
Yes.
it made out of? Do you know?
It's got two surfaces, both inner and outer surface are fiberglass, and it's insulated. And your ears are below the water, so you're not able to hear much of anything.
Your
really.
ears are below water?
Yes. You can hear a noise if it's loud enough, but I don't remember hearing anything other than my breathing.
Oh, I don't know if I could do that.
Your heartbeat. There's a lot of
I
information.
wouldn't want water in my ears.
It doesn't hurt your ears. No, that occasionally you'll get some salt in your eye, but there's a handle in there. You put a towel and you can wipe your eyes because it will sting.
But I read the instructions.
Yeah, there's quite a bit to it, but they send you, if you purchase a tank, they send you a pretty good sized booklet of how to. It's about that thick. How to take care of it, buying new parts, how to set it up. It goes into pretty good detail, and it's not complicated. It looks like it when you open that book, right? But it
So
really isn't.
if you buy one, I mean, you was able to install your own. If you bought it from a company, would they install it for you, or is that on top of everything else?
It depends on what you buy and who you buy it from. There was one pod that I looked at that was about $50,000, but all the plumbing was internal. You just push buttons. They were willing to bring it to your house and install it for you.
Yeah.
I didn't want to spend $50,000.
Yeah, you see, the thing is here, I don't think most people are so envious towards rich people or well-to-do people. Let me rephrase that, well-to-do people. Anyway, the problem is there's a cure for everything. Everything is, so many things you can do with everything, but I don't care what it is. It costs so much money. So in a way, like if I had the funds to buy a tank like that, I would invite everybody to come use it, because not in their wildest dreams they're going to be able to spend that amount of money
Right.
for a tank. You see.
And I've
So-
done that.
So all these wonderful things that's in the world, it's not reachable for a lot of people.
And it's too bad.
Yeah.
But I had to think about how I got there. Right. I wasn't always there. I didn't have money. I struggled with it for years and years, and I had to think about what did I change. What I changed is that I have no negative thought whatsoever about money.
A little louder.
I have no negative thought whatsoever about money. I've had discussions about it with people, and that has helped me. And it's a priority. There are a lot of other things that I could have spent that money on, but I didn't. It's possible the power bill might go unpaid for a month or two, but it's a priority. It's not that much different than having eye surgery next month. I don't want to wait. I don't have a lot of money, but I have enough to do it. My eyes are important to me, so I'm going to have eye surgery also. A lot of people wait till they're quite a bit older than me to have eye surgery. So I think it really has to do with what you need to get out of it right now, what you're learning right now.
That's a good thought.
Yeah, I really think it is. And I think when you're done with that struggle, whatever it is, when you're done with that experience, you'll know it, you'll cross over, and you won't think about it the same way.
Did you feel like that before you floated, or is that
I felt
have
like
you arrived at that?
I felt like that before I floated, but the floating has contributed to
it.
moving on a little bit quicker
Yeah.
than I was. In other words, when you're bored enough with living the way you are, you'll change it. And the floating really did help that. It pushed me through it with more ease.
Trying to visualize what that would be like to be bored with living the way you are.
I used to take a sledgehammer and knock on a brick wall for hours for it to fall over, not realizing that the foundation was already broken. All I had to do was push it over.
Really?
Yes. Or it didn't need to be pushed over anyway. If I walked far enough, I could walk around it.
That's interesting.
Yes.
A lot of food for thought here.
It is, it's made things smoother. You know, and there's a ways to go. We all have hurdles in the way. It's just a matter of getting the hurdles out of the way.
I should have asked you that earlier. The water, is it room temperature, or is it?
No.
Is it?
That's a good question, because there are different ideas on what temperature is best. Some say anywhere between 93 and 98 degrees body temperature. The man who wrote this book, who started the floating, said 93 degrees is best because your body's always trying to get rid of heat.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, when you're in there, like right now, our bodies are trying to cool off. During the winter, they're trying to warm up a little bit, but not as much. He says 93 is optimum because you're releasing heat the whole time you're in there. So if you have it at 98.6 body temperature, you're not allowing your body to release the heat that's necessary. So you don't get a headache or overheated.
Oh yeah, that's like when you cold and you put a blanket on yourself. And all of a sudden, the inside of the blanket is warm because your body
Yes,
heat.
and sometimes a little bit too warm. So I think it's easier to warm up than it is to release heat.
Wow, this is really interesting. I'm glad we got together and did this.
I love it. I was really looking
I
forward
like
to
this
it.
book. Really, I like this cover.
Yeah, I would have to say, well, this book I haven't read yet. This is my next read. That was the most fascinating.
You know, it must be for an unborn. Okay, a child is born, and you describe floating to the inside of a womb. Okay, so then the child is born. It must be cold out there, and then they slap you. Isn't it horrible?
Yeah, you start life by being hit.
Yeah, it's like, welcome to the world.
Well, and now they're having more births in water,
Yeah.
right? And that's been going on for a few years. I was born 2 months early.
Oh, wow.
So going back into the float tank, and I noticed this
You're gonna
early
finish
on.
your time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It made me feel like I was going back in and finishing my time
Yeah.
in a nice, warm, cozy place where you can put your body any way you want, really. You're floating, but you can get into the fetal position if you want to. And I felt like it was helping me complete that process.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yes, and it is talked about also.
Oh, is it?
Yes,
Yeah.
about how going in there, it might seem kind of claustrophobic, but you may feel like you're going back into your mother's womb where you felt safe. You didn't have any responsibility to speak of yet.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, and you were warm.
But going forward, you pretty much formulated what you want your life to look like?
I know that this is something that I'm going to do. I don't have the most clear picture, and I don't want to yet. I want to go through the process. I simply know everything's going to be fine. Everything's lining up. Everything's getting better. I don't want to make too much of a picture of where I didn't know I was going to be here a month ago until you asked me.
Yeah.
This is a great experience. So I think the key is to let it flow. I will. I know enough now about what it's doing for me. I will continue to float, probably 4 or 5 days a week. Sometimes I'll take 2 or 3 days off to see what it's doing, right? Give it a chance to sink in, because I was doing a lot all at once. I was getting rid of all my habits, and it seemed a little overwhelming, but I just kept doing it. And I felt like I was just getting into this flow.
Now, you are a roofer by trade.
Yes.
Now, metaphorically speaking, how long would you patch your roof before you said, that's it, I'm going to replace it? And what I mean by...
Well, I do quite a few inspections, and it really depends on the type of roof. It's good to have somebody just inspect the whole thing every year.
But I'm using this metaphorically.
A typical roof will last about 20 years.
But I'm not talking about the roof.
Okay.
I'm
Oh,
talking
I see. Okay.
metaphorically. You look at it and you say, this has a problem, here's a problem, there's a hole, I'll patch this, we can do this a little longer. But there comes a time, it's time to float and
Yep.
say, that's it, I'm replacing the whole doggone thing.
Right.
That's where I was going.
Yes. That's me. Do it now.
No.
Right? Some people will do it in steps, and that's good enough. And I've done things where, very few things where part way, that's good enough, and I moved on. But when I started doing this, some people float, most people float once a week. That's it. With me, it's going to be 4 or 5 times a week, maybe even 6, because I don't tend to wait on it. So I say do it now.
I don't know how much time I have, but I'd like to thank you, Dan.
You have 4 minutes still.
I got 4 minutes. Oh, I can talk some more stuff then. But anyway, I won't forget. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And you're welcome.
And check YouTube. Some of the old shows are on. As to date, there is 337 shows. So if you push the button and never stop, you can watch a different one almost every day out of the year. By the time you get halfway done, we will have the other 30 posted. Yeah. And you have big plans for the weekend?
This weekend, usually I do. I have to mow the yard, I have to fix something. But the last month or so, I got everything done.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I prefer to have the weekend where I get up and don't have to do anything. I want to. So I'll pick something that I want, like go into town, and just talk to people, or go to the bookstore, or something like that. Or buy something I don't need.
Yeah. Yes, I was coming to the studio today. Okay, well, we had a tornado, right, where I live. And a couple of the places got demolished. So the home directly across from me got hit really hard, so the woman has to move. And she had what turned out to be a toddler's bed that looked really good and like some we could use, you know. So I asked her if I could have it for one of the great-grandkids.
Oh, that's
And then
nice.
she had something else and something else. I called my daughter. I said, well, do we need this? And she says, Mother, that's a sign of a hoarder. You don't even have a baby. But somebody can use it, you know.
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, it's another thing that I think is a good thing to do is get people hooked up with each other. Create a network.
Speaking of that, on my Facebook, I have Australian Aborigines, tribal people there on there now. And we managed to hook about 400 people together where we talk to each other from all around the world. We have common goals. And this small, we are trying to make a difference. And so pick and choose the people that you want to do things with. And there's a woman in Chicago, her name is Karen. She has OCD, but she likes to read. So she has been reading my books to me on Skype, and she has calmed, really, really calmed. In fact, they're thinking about getting a float tank too.
Really? Good.
Because some kind of way you put her brain together, and that OCD, if nothing else for that hour, it will stop. Yeah.
Everybody shows up at exactly the right time
Right
in your
time,
life.
yeah.
And it's always a gift. It's
Yeah.
nothing short of a gift.
So that's how it works now. Next time, I'm in the studio. They convinced me to do an update on the predictions. I didn't really want to. I'm scared to look because the last one was so bad, but they were so accurate. So I have agreed to come into the studio to do an update of 2017 in July. So look forward to that and stay in touch. No? Thank you for joining us. And again, thank you, Dan. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you.
It was really nice.
This has been great. I hope we can do this again.
Yeah. Now we have to go and finish our snacks. You know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have to eat. I have to feed the crew. You know? So, thank you for stopping in and stop by sometimes while we're filming. Bye. That's it.
Wow, that was actually.
Care.